What's up, everybody? This is Devon White, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're listening to the LCC Network. Go Bucks.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioner's Clubhouse on the LCC Network for Week 7 of the Fantasy Offseason. And we have a great episode, of course, like always. But with me today, I've got Jordan on the show, my co-commissioner and co-host. What's going on, man?
What's up? Back again for another off-season week.
That's right, we survived. World War III has not happened yet. We have.
It's probably started, but it's just not full blown.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
Never been a more appropriate time. We've all made it. Yeah, at least here in the U.S., so that's good.
Thankfully.
But we've got a pretty cool episode, despite the darkness kind of brewing out there. Put some positivity in the air. We are gonna do of course, regular news and notes, blah blah blah. But we have a dynasty play episode for you guys where we're gonna focus specifically on player versus player comparisons and who do we prefer in more of a dynasty long-term format for a keeper league such as ourselves in the LCC. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and start out with our only two announcements. First and foremost, payment deadline for the LCC is this Friday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is March 4th, by the way, to be exact. So please, please, please get your money in by then. That way we don't have to replace anyone, hopefully. But if we have to, we have to. It's life. I get it. And then the other one, we're about a little over 2 weeks, or a little under 3, a little over 2 weeks from the deadline to change your team name and logo. If anyone's interested, you still got time. It's not until March 20th. So, I've thrown out some ideas for people on our Discord chat. But if you got an idea for your own, let me know, and I'll definitely make that for you. If you have any specific ideas for it, let me know. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to our other news that
killer announcements.
Killer announcements. This one everyone in the league pretty much knows, I would hope. Anyone who has Discord, which everyone but Cody does, and I'm sure he knows by now. But the 2022 LCC draft location is set for Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City. We are doing it, assuming, I'll put an asterisk here, assuming that the Carolina Panthers do it the same weekend they did last year, which is the weekend before Labor Day weekend. So go ahead and put that on your calendar. I already sent the date out to everyone. It'll be that Saturday more than likely.
Assuming Dave Tepper isn't kicking a soccer ball somewhere.
Yeah, assuming they don't jack the price up and so forth, But I have a feeling that it'll be in the same ballpark. You never know, though, with inflation and stuff. The way this economy has been the past year, I mean, we could easily
just get a greedy vibe off of him. I get a greedy vibe.
It's possible. But the backup plan, like I said, if they don't do it that weekend, if they do it later or earlier, because we definitely don't want to do earlier, because that means we're doing it before the last weekend of preseason, which means players get cut, rosters aren't finalized in the NFL, players are getting hurt. No one wants to draft like that. So if the Panthers don't do that weekend, or if the price is jacked up and it's out of our price range, then the backup plan is Hub City Martial Arts. Did I say that right, Jordan? Is it Hub City Martial Arts?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, Matt's gym. If you didn't go there last year, it's at the same place. If you did, so in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's a great location. I think we all had a good time. Plenty of space to spread out. We could have easily accommodated probably the entire league in there if everyone did show up. But I know that's wishful thinking. I know we'll probably never get 100% attendance at the draft, but
we can do it.
And then the backup plan to the backup plan is Eddie's gym in Greenwood, South Carolina, the school where he works at, or renting a Pod 2 boat in probably Lake Greenwood. It seems like it would be
What's the school? I've just been referring to it as Eddie's gym.
Eddie's gym. I don't know, honestly. I forgot. I've seen Eddie post some stuff on Facebook about him coaching and stuff. Maybe if I'm going to his Twitter, I can pull it up. But yeah, I know it's in Greenwood, South Carolina. I know that much. So anyway, regardless of the way you look at it, we got a place set. You know what I mean? Even if the Panthers Stadium doesn't work out, and if Matt already has a kid's birthday or party planned at his gym at that time, we have two other backup plans. So no matter what, we have something in place. So yeah, that's all our news and announcements. Did I miss anything, Jordan?
No, I think you did a solid job.
Why, thank you, good sir.
Let's dive into this dynasty play episode.
That's right. And I got Sam Mills as our cover photo. It was Jordan. I didn't write this down, but I meant to, and that's why I gave me the idea for this cover. But as a Panthers fan, I want you to just think really quick. Who would you rather have in an IDP league based off our current scoring system? Sam Mills or Kevin Green?
Oh, man.
And I'm talking when they were both in Carolina in their prime.
Well, was Kevin Green in his prime?
In Carolina, yeah, he made the Pro Bowl. I mean, he had a great couple seasons with us.
Yeah.
All right, do you mean to tell you just their stats really quick for the years they were in Carolina?
Yeah, and that'll give me a better understanding who scored higher.
Well, we'll go with...
before I hear anything, though, I'll go Sam Mills.
Okay.
Just because I usually play more of a Mike linebacker type of roster and play the safer tackle role.
Yeah. Okay. So, Kevin Green had 53 tackles and 3 assists with 15 sacks. He had a fumble recovery and 2 interceptions. No defensive touchdowns. All right. You ready for?
Pretty good year.
That's a really good year, dude. That's a great year. Actually, now that you say that, let me look up TJ Watt really quick. Because now I'm like, is that better or worse than what TJ Watt did this year? All right, TJ Watt.
TJ almost touched 20.
Yeah, I'm pulling up his stats. So, is this right? Yeah, this is right. So, TJ Watt had, God, you're right. He had 21.5 sacks. He had 6 passes defended, 0 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 45 tackles, and 14 assists. So, Kevin Green would have got you a little bit more in tackles, but TJ would have scored more overall because of the turnovers.
Not quite what TJ did, yeah. TJ was a havoc machine.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to Sam Mills. So Sam Mills' best year in Carolina, at least what I would say, is probably the 1996 season, the year they won the NFC Championship. So Sam Mills had a total of 122 tackles, 32 assists. He had 5.5 sacks. He had a defensive touchdown. He had 2 fumble recoveries, no forced fumbles, and 1 interception. Oof. I'll tell you what.
I would think Kevin Green slightly outscores him, but it'll be close.
Honestly, that's what I was thinking too. Like Kevin Green with the sacks and the turnovers, that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Me personally, they were both at the end of their careers at the point when they got to Carolina, and especially their best seasons. So I gotta go Sam Mills just because of the tackles. I know myself. I'm too conservative of a fantasy player to pass up on 122 tackles. So I gotta take those.
So we're taking the field mouse.
Yeah, we're taking the field mouse. All right, so let's get into our other comparisons here. Now that we we explained the Sam Mills cover photo here.
Our non-Panther comparisons.
Yeah, none of these guys play for Carolina. Actually, I take that back. There was like one.
Except for one.
So let's start off with Joe Burrow versus Pat Mahomes versus Justin Herbert versus Jalen Hurts. Man, all young guys, a lot of promise. All have the capability of extending the play with their legs. Although I think Jalen's going to get you more rushing yards compared to all of these guys. Jordan, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, they all scored about the same this year, and we were talking about, like you just said, they can beat you in slightly different ways, but like we said, Hurts with the legs comes into a little more factor. Um, I think out of the four, you'd probably say for future Arsenal, I'd probably give it to Joe Burrow to have like the best future weapons. You know what I mean? And that is going to count for something. Pat Mahomes, he just been humming since he came in the league. I think as long as he's with Andy Reid, he's going to put up crazy numbers. And then Herbert, that was just his breakout. I was the benefit of having him in fantasy, and he added surprisingly enough with his legs as well. But just slightly different skill sets out of all of them, but they're going to be right there neck and neck probably for the next few years. So who do you like out of those four?
This is tough for me because they're all in total different situations. I think riskiest player on that list, Jalen Hurts, because there's like rumors swirling about them trading for Russell Wilson. So, but
yeah, if he plays, he's going to be similar numbers as them, but like he's definitely the one that might not even keep his job. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I'm actually going to go Justin Herbert here because although his situation in LA may not be the same as Pat Mahomes, who has a star-studded roster year in and year out, you know, Joe Burrow has an explosive offense around him. But, man, I'll tell you what, if Cincinnati fails to put together an offensive line this offseason and going forward, Joe Burrow is going to have a very short-lived career. I mean, the dude was sacked more than any other quarterback in the league. I mean, I'm saying that as a Panther fan. Like, dude, our offensive line is garbage. Theirs is even worse, which is crazy. Crazy to think about. And I think Justin Herbert, although he doesn't have the same kind of weapons as other guys have, I think he's done a lot more with a whole lot less, in my opinion. And Pat Mahomes is, you know, again, luxury of playing with potentially a future Hall of Fame coach, a great team around him on the offense. What happens, though, when Andy Reid retires? Because Andy is not a young guy. Like, I don't know. Who knows how much longer he's in the league? I would imagine Pat outlasts his career, though.
Maybe that's when Eric Bieniemy finally gets his head coaching opportunity.
Yeah, it's possible.
And I would imagine the ball would keep rolling just because of how good Mahomes is, but it could be a factor.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
when we
go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead. Keep going.
No, I was just gonna say.
I was just gonna say when we talk about the four, I'd probably split it down to Mahomes versus Herbert as who I would want to have going forward. And it's basically because you hit the nail on the head with Cincinnati not having built any resemblance of an offensive line. And kind of the same hand with Jalen Hurts. He doesn't get quite sacked as much as maybe Joe Burrow, but like we talked about with his legs, he's going to inevitably take more shots on his body and might not have the longevity. But with the other two, I think starting this season specifically started working on their offensive lines to protect their franchise quarterback a little bit longer. So I think it would come down to those two, Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert, on who I would want to have, say, the next 3 seasons.
Yeah, I agree. The next one, though, these are second-year guys, and Jordan, you put together this list. I'll let you run through this one.
Yeah, we were basically talking about the four elite, not all the elite, but 4 elite guys at the top right there. And this one, I was just thinking, you know what, there was that wave of rookies that still has like a ton of potential. So we decided to break down and who we would think was the best option for all the second year quarterbacks coming back to have going forward. And that would include Mac Jones in New England, Justin Fields in Chicago, Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, Trey Lance most likely getting his opportunity to start in San Francisco, and Zach Wilson getting plugged back in with the Jets. So just straight second year quarterbacks coming back. Who do we like the most dynasty wise? And you want to start off your thoughts on any or all these guys?
Yeah. I'm a big believer. I've said it plenty of times, but I'm a big believer that a quarterback success, I think more oftentimes than not, is determined by the environment in which they are brought to when they reach the professional level, and even college for that matter. Look at Willie Corn. I think is a good example for college. Like a guy who was considered a total bust for Clemson, a number one high school recruit coming out of high school. Then goes to North Greenville and wins them like a national championship, right? I mean, I get it, it's like Division II or whatever, but great quarterback, probably just wasn't in the right system. In the NFL, it's no different. Justin Fields was in a terrible system, man. And I think honestly, that's the guy I'm most excited about. Although I think Daniel Jones is in the best possible environment right now with Bill Belichick. Mac Jones, sorry. What did I say? Daniel Jones, yeah. Definitely not Daniel Jones. Good Lord. That dude's done. No, Mac Jones, sorry. Yeah, and Trevor Lawrence was like the number one sought after quarterback. And probably, honestly, one of the most hyped up NFL prospects we've seen in quite a while, probably, if you really think about it. And that's not a shot at Trevor in any shape or form. He just was in a terrible, terrible environment. I mean, honestly, probably a worse environment than Justin Fields was in. Trey Lance is, he's had the luxury of being a backup guy, and I really like that for him. He's had time to develop and learn in that system. And it's an established offense, an established defense, and, just a great front office in general. So I think Trey Lance is in a good position to be successful. What does he do with that opportunity? Who knows? But I can say if he doesn't succeed in probably the first 2 or 3 years, he definitely is a bust, and that's 100% on him. Because if Jimmy G can go in there and look solid, why can't Trey Lance?
Yeah, so I agree with you.
For me, out of all of those, though, it's Justin Fields. That's the guy who I want in dynasty play. I mean, his ability to run, he's got a good arm. It's just like, can the Bears build, a winning offense for the first time in a very long time?
Yeah. I'll talk a little bit about them, but I think I see all 5 of these guys actually taking a step forward in their progressions this season, which usually will happen unless they just don't have anything in them at all. But and the interesting thing about it, we say Mac Jones may be in the best position, but I think that'll start to tweak a little bit this year. And I think the other 4 on the list, this might be a bold prediction, I don't know, but I think the other 4 on the list will finish higher in scoring than Mac Jones. I think they're all going to have a nice little jump.
I think they all have a higher ceiling, that's for sure, all of them.
Yeah. And you mentioned Lance getting to sit, and I love his system for QBs. Lawrence had a crap year, and he's probably still going to be around a mostly crap team, although they do have a ton of cap. But I do love them getting Doug Peterson in there. Like, people forget this guy took a combination of Carson Wentz and Nick Foles and took the Eagles to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that's going to be the Jaguars, but he maximizes at least what a quarterback can do. And Justin Fields, like you said, probably has the most potential out of all of them, especially when you think about how he's going to run the ball, kind of like a Hurts/Newton type. And Zach Wilson, I think they can do nothing but put more weapons with the draft capital they have, and he's an athlete as well. and I would probably lean Fields like you said, but I would be comfortable with Fields, Lawrence, and Lance like being my QB1, like thinking I could be competitive towards the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones. Good lord, sorry, Mac Jones. I think that he has honestly the potential to be very good. It's just that Bill, he likes to run the football, and he's never been a guy to put a young quarterback in an uncomfortable situation, which means he's
Yeah,
going to put the bulk of that responsibility, or he's going to put the responsibility he puts in Mac's hands is going to be more game management style stuff. So I think he's a safe bet, but he doesn't have as high of a ceiling as all the other guys that we talked about.
yeah. Think about how long it took him to let Tom Brady go bombs away. Like
Yeah,
it takes a minute.
exactly. So our next, we got
Yeah,
Jonathan Taylor versus Najee Harris, two great young running backs. I think everyone can easily say that they'd be happy with either. I don't think
yeah,
if you look at most people's fantasy rankings, they're not too far apart. So neither of them even have a great quarterback, honestly, Jordan. They're both
yeah.
sitting there with kind of like a banged up quarterback situation.
I would say I would be ecstatic with both of them on my team. You can't go wrong, but at the same time, it's easy to say that about both of them. I will, in my opinion, the easy answer is Jonathan Taylor. Just the sheer amount of production we've seen out of him. And it is interesting that, like you said, both of them will be playing with new quarterbacks most likely. Najee for sure. We'll see what the Colts decide to do with Carson Wentz, but that's going to be a major factor on what kind of running lanes either one of them see.
Yeah. I mean, if Najee has a good quarterback, that opens up the door for him to not get the the box stacked.
Yeah, you're completely right about that. What just random thought, like court goes swimmingly for Deshaun Watson and he lands in Pittsburgh. Najee Harris is probably going to go crazy.
Oh god, yeah, dude. I mean, that offense would be deadly all of a sudden. Yes, that would be great for Najee, honestly. So for me, I mean, right now, I feel like I kind of want to go Jonathan Taylor. Like, I get it, Najee's a little bit younger, but not having a
I
quarterback
have to factor in
hurts.
the offensive line is better in Indianapolis as
Yes,
well. So
yes, by far, yes. So give me JT in that.
yeah, no disrespect to Najee though, he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, definitely. I honestly, I think he's a top 3 back guaranteed this year. Our next one is another running back comparison between Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, and Christian McCaffrey. That's our only Panther we're talking about tonight. Now, all these guys have something in common. They've been in the league for 4 years, Jordan? Is that right?
Yeah, I think this would be their fourth year,
Fourth or
fifth
fifth?
year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All have sustained pretty big injuries, honestly, and multiple injuries at that. At this point, Saquon, dude, I don't know, man. Like, he was honestly, he might be one of the most hyped up running backs we've seen in probably the past 5 years in terms of like coming
yeah,
into the NFL draft. And I was a freaking huge Saquon fan, but it's just injuries have not been kind to him, man. And part of that's, I'm sure, New York didn't have an offense, and just like Carolina, overfed him. And I get
yeah,
it; he's a superstar, but you got to let your men breathe sometimes, even if they don't want it. Otherwise you get into a situation where you cut a guy's career short.
yeah, yeah. I can see this. And when I make this pick, I'm gonna pick McCaffrey in this, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, he's a Panther fan," but the only reason is kind of what you alluded to right there. I think we're the only out of those three, we're the team that still wants to give that man the ball every time.
Yeah,
And in the other two situations, you've kind of seen a second back, kind of like steadily. Even Zeke pretty much healthy this year was splitting carries with Tony Pollard. But
Yes.
so all I'm saying is, if McCaffrey stayed healthy, he would be the one to get force fed the ball and have a ridiculous fantasy season, assuming health. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm with you there. I think Christian McCaffrey is actually has a clear cut advantage over Saquon and Zeke. Over Saquon because Saquon leads these guys in injuries. Zeke, on the other hand, I mean, he's being literally phased out while he's healthy. That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
And I think regardless, I don't know how high anyone's going to be on any of these three this year, and definitely not in 2023. I think 2023, Zeke goes out to pasture, and honestly, he's more of like a top 24 back versus a top 12 back in fantasy rankings. Honestly, you could probably argue that this year. Saquon, I mean, has he played a full season ever? Jordan, do you know?
I don't think he has, even going back to Penn State.
And honestly, that's kind of becoming the new normal for running backs in today's NFL. Guys just aren't completing full
Yeah.
seasons anymore. A longer
Yeah.
season of that. You know, NFL is still greedy with Thursday night football being every week. That doesn't help the situation. So I think that, yeah, I mean, it's kind of normal for guys to get hurt, but I mean, Saquon just seems to be way more than normal.
Yeah. He's just so physical.
DK Metcalf and Deontay Johnson are two receivers next that we're talking about. DK is just a physical specimen like we've never seen at the receiver position. And I mean, I get a Megatron was a big dude, but DK is like just ridiculous. And with that
Yeah.
said, he didn't have a good year. I mean, honestly, he fell way down. I mean, he was wide receiver 15. He averaged 23.6 points in our league. His best week was week 18, where he got 54 points. So he was very up and down, but when he was up, he was up. Deontay Johnson, though, man, he was a top 10 receiver. Number 9 actually averaged 27.7 points per game. You could argue he's worth even flexing in our league now with the scoring changes. And so with Deontay, he doesn't have a quarterback.
Good route runner. Yeah, he was playing with Noodle Arm Ben.
Exactly, and I don't like how much better is it going to be this year, depending on who they sign, I guess. You know, if they get Jimmy G, honestly, that's better than Big Ben. That's improvement for him.
Yeah, at least he'll get the ball out there, but it'll be interesting to see potentially DKs with a new quarterback as well.
Yes.
If Russell doesn't stick around.
Yeah.
So that would potentially impact both their values like tremendously. Like I guess I go back to the Najee scenario. Deshaun Watson takes Deontay's stock way up, but even like you said, someone like Jimmy's going to outplay what Ben Roethlisberger was capable of last year.
Yeah, and I don't think Seattle. I mean, it seems like Russell's probably leaving more than likely the way things are going.
Yeah, everything that I've seen, it doesn't look like a return.
I don't see anyone in free agency that's an improvement over Russell Wilson. And furthermore, they're not going to be able to draft anyone worth their while either, even with getting multiple picks. So I just don't really know that DK's situation is getting any better anytime soon unless Seattle actually trades him as well. I really don't like it. I would argue DK may not be worth keeping this season, depending on how that situation at quarterback goes.
Yeah, especially depending on where he's slotted in as your keeper.
Yes, exactly.
But we got more receiver talk coming.
We do. We got Cooper Kupp first, Jamar Chase. Cooper Kupp, number 1 receiver. Actually, like a top 5 player in fantasy this year in our league. Averaged 42.6 points per game. Best week was a 68 point game in week 7. Jamar Chase averaged 32 points per game, with finishing 3rd over on receiver rankings. So in our league, at least. For me, Jordan, I gotta go Jamar Chase. He's a younger guy. He's got a younger quarterback. Just dynasty play wise, I don't see how you don't go Jamar Chase over Cooper Kupp, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and it's kind of crazy to say because Cooper Cup, like you said, not was a top five receiver, was a top five player in the league. So outstanding year, but I think we talked about it a little beforehand. What are the odds of him reproducing that type of year? That was a top 2 3 year we've ever seen
Yeah,
in a passing
it's not
league.
happening.
So I don't think we see a repeat. And like you said, when it gets down to it, when we're talking about dynasty, 3 years or more, um, who's going to be Cup's quarterback in say 2 years, much less
Hmm.
3 or 4? And I would think Cincinnati does everything they can in their power to keep Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow together as long as something drastic doesn't happen. So when you get down to who's going to be throwing the ball long term, give me Jamar Chase.
Yep, I agree. Next on our list, we've got TJ Watt versus the field. Man, like,
That's how elite TJ Watt is.
this is literally how elite he is. He had to do the tackle sound drop for that because that dude
Yeah,
just was a freak. We talked about it earlier when we were comparing him to Kevin Green's best year in Carolina, which I'm not saying was Kevin Green's best year, period, but still,
yeah.
like, it just.
Game record TJ Watt.
We talked about this off the show, Jordan. I don't see anyone that I like more in Dynasty play right now. And I get it. TJ Watt's not like a super young player anymore, but he's young enough. And
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything between the past two NFL draft classes to where like I'm like, that dude is TJ Watt or the future TJ Watt.
Yeah, and the guy missed 2 or 3 full games and still was on top of everybody. That's how explosive he is on the defensive side of the ball. And we talked about it also. Funny thing was the second scoring defensive lineman was his teammate Cam Hayward. So just in general around the league, I don't see anybody catching his type of production. Uh, assuming he like is healthy. If he's healthy for a full year, he's probably gonna touch the sack record.
Yeah, definitely. So that was an easy one. Honestly, we'll just keep it moving.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna let you do this one because you got one of your players on here.
Okay. Even though I'm going to butcher this name, but we got this was actually I believe this was the top two scoring linebackers, which probably would surprise a few folks. But we got um, Okun Forsade from the
Aluakon, I
Atlanta
think is how you
Falcons.
say it.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the correction. Then you should have just took that one. No, but everyone knows who I'm talking about. He was the actually I think the top scoring
He
linebacker
was.
versus Devondre Campbell of the Green Bay Packers, who was also on my team, was the number two scoring linebacker, and that probably shocks a lot of people that those two were 1, 2. So we put them up here. Two surprising names. So who do we think will not continue to surprise, but prove it wasn't much of a surprise? And I thought another interesting fact about both of them were they could, even though I've seen the Packers are in a lot of extension talks with Campbell, they are both potential free agents if a deal doesn't get done within the next couple weeks. So top two scoring linebackers both could potentially be on new teams.
Definitely. And yeah, for me, I got to go with. You know, here's my issue with Campbell, man, is that, I mean, the dude's been in the league for 7 years now, and this is the first time we've seen this kind of play. I kind of think it's an outlier, honestly. I think he was just in a great situation in Green Bay. Foye, on the other hand, he's a little bit younger, about 2 years younger. He's 26. You know, he's probably still got another 4 years left in him at least. So I'm going to go, Foye in here. I like him a little bit more.
I think it's going to be really system dependent on who's going to really have the better next couple seasons. But I will agree with you on that. And just because he's a little bit younger, and like we said, Campbell never showed quite a season like that in Arizona. I just think he got really set up to be the run thumper in that defense. Um, and Foye is more of an undersized speed linebacker,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that could fit more people's schemes in this more spread world NFL.
Yeah.
Um, so I like him to be able to stay on the field in more defenses, assuming they could either be on the move.
Cool. Now our next linebacker in comparison: Micah Parsons, Eric Kendricks, Roquan Smith. Now, definitely an age difference between these guys. And I get Micah Parsons definitely looks like the future of the linebacker position, at least for the next couple of seasons. Um, I've talked about this before. Rookie IDP players don't typically pan out that first year. Micah Parsons was an exception, finished as the number 18 linebacker in our league, averaged 27.8 points per game. He was very volatile though. He went as low as 5 points in one game, but he went as high as 56 in one game. So he's kind of matchup dependent, or at least he was his first season. I think he's going to improve. But man, Roquan Smith, dude, I don't know.
He's an animal.
He's an animal, man. He's only 24 years old. I think some people think he's older than he actually is. He is actually very young still. And then Eric Kendricks, on the other hand, is 30. So I'm going to take Eric Kendricks out for now. He only has 8 years of experience, though, and he's already 30.
Or at least rank him third of the three.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go Roquan here. I just want to see more of Micah before I really dub him as a dynasty diamond, if you will.
Got you. Well, I'm going to agree with you on the placing Eric Kendricks third place, mostly because of the age. And it's argued that probably the last 2 seasons were his real breakouts.
Mm-hmm.
But I will disagree on who my number 1 pick is. And I agree with you on we've seen more production and a little bigger sample size from Roquan, and he's still young. But give me all the pure potential, baby. I'll take Micah Parsons for the next 3 to 4 years over on the Afternoon Delights. I think he will become more of a game record type, like we were discussing T.J. Watt, just with his versatility. I kind of envision him as like a T.J. Watt mixed with Darius Leonard playing in the mic too. But yeah, give me Micah with his versatility, and I think he'll be the one pulling off more of the splash plays going forward.
Okay. We got another one here. We got Devon White, who is our opener every episode. I feel like it'd almost be weird for us not to have him on this list, honestly.
Yeah, he had to be.
Yeah, just by default, he had to be talked about. And then we've got, of course, the one and only Fred Warner from San Francisco. And I think a lot of people last offseason were kind of down on him. They're like, I'm just done with the Fred Warner hype. Well, he had a good year. Finished as LB 17 in our league, averaged 29.9 points per game. Definitely worth flexing, definitely worth starting in our league, week in and week out for the most part. Very consistent, safe floor, not a very high ceiling. Fred Warner is, for those who don't know, he's 25 years old. And then on the other hand, I almost said Roquan Smith. Sorry, for Devon White, obviously he's pretty young. He was just drafted. He's 24 years old. So they're basically the same age. Honestly, Jordan, I kind of like Devon White. Maybe this is the bias of him being on the podcast every night with us. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're both great players, but I think White's potential just goes a touch high. I think in a perfect season, White would probably be a top 3 to 5 linebacker,
Mm-hmm.
and I just don't quite see that for Warner
I
with
agree.
everybody else that we've talked about. But just his Devin White's skill set and his speed and athleticism, he could shoot up boards real quick. We might have just saw a down year in Tampa overall from him, but I'll take the Mr. LCC introduction himself, Devin White.
I agree. Easily. So we're almost done. I swear, guys, and this is probably ended up being a longer episode than anyone planned for it to be. But Derwin James versus Minka Fitzpatrick. Jordan, you want to start this one
Yeah,
off?
I thought this was a pretty good one. I love both of these players. I, like, if all things considered, I think Derwin has slightly more potential to be a top dog with everything he brings to the table. But when I start thinking about who might not be available more often, I think that might be Derwin with his injury history, especially in the lower extremity injury history. That can add up pretty quick for a hitter.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when you think of which place is going to be known for a great defense the next like 4 years, I started actually thinking I might go with Minka, just being more of a strong safety and gobbling up tackles and things like that.
Yes, I agree. I think Minka has a better injury history. They're both the same age, pretty much. I think they're both 25. And it's crazy because the Dolphins got rid of Minka like he was a piece of garbage just like
Yeah,
2 or 3 years ago. Um, Derwin's been in LA or playing for the Chargers at least his whole career, I believe. So I'm gonna go Minka. I just like the injury history better. And for those who don't know, Minka finished as the number one defensive back in our league. Derwin James number two. Uh, Derwin averaged 40 points per game. Minka averaged 38. Neither of them played a full season this past year, but Derwin did miss one extra week that Minka didn't, which is why he finished first.
yep.
All right, so let's go to our last one. Antoine Winfield, Jordan, who I traded to you, versus
Yes.
Jesse Bates.
Yeah, both of these they finish around the same on the scoring board. You can check that for definitive ranking, but both missed a few games. Jesse Bates potentially on the move after a Super Bowl win. I
Or
think
Super Bowl
both
loss.
safeties with the potential to score higher than they did. Or yeah, my bad. Super Bowl loss. I gave him one right there,
He did. He
but
did.
I feel like they're both safeties that could score higher than they did this season. So who would you who would you take out of the two?
Whew. Antoine Winfield finished. You'd asked me to look at this. So Antoine Winfield finishes defensive back 26. So down year for him. Jesse Bates finishes DB 30. So down year for him as well. Um, Antoine Winfield
I think
23
I
years.
think both of those go way up.
Yes. Winfield is 23 years old. Jesse Bates, on the other hand, is 25. So very similar in age. Both pretty young. Um, One thing that's interesting is that I like Jesse Bates because of the fact that Cincinnati's offense is so explosive and they can put up points. On the flip side of that, Tampa Bay without a quarterback is not the same Tampa Bay that we have seen the past 2 years. And I think that does hurt Antoine a little bit because I don't think teams have got to throw the ball like they probably would have in the past 2 years. I think Jesse Bates is going to be a little more busier, probably, and I like his situation a little bit more.
It is highly likely that he leaves Cincinnati though, so we'll have to revisit that.
Yeah, that's true. I'm
Um,
basing this off if he
yeah,
stays in
yeah.
Cincinnati.
This is I'm gonna say this, but I'm gonna say it's with a big risk factor. But I'm gonna say Winfield, and just if both of them are on the field, I think Winfield definitely just like starts out playing them, and it's mostly I feel like he starts gobbling up tackles. But where Winfield missed most of his time, I felt like with being on my team was with a concussion, and that can go one or two ways. The guy can get another one and retire tomorrow, or he could be perfectly fine for the next 5 years. Um, so it's going to be interesting. But I would, if they were both on the board for me, I'd probably go Antoine Winfield.
Okay, cool. Well, that's all we got, guys, for our episode 7 of the LCC offseason. We've got week 8 coming up. here in a little bit. It's going to be another good show. But Jordan, you got anything you want to add before we hop off?
No, appreciate y'all listening. We won't drag it out.
All right, we'll catch you guys in week 8.